All right, get ready to be inspired because it's time for overcoming hurdles. When a young child is sick, every parent worries and gives their all to make them feel better. Unfortunately, Dona Joslyn Mitchell knows what it's like to watch her child get worse. She joins me along with her daughter Jocelyn to share their story and how they overcame it. Hello, ladies. I'm so glad to have you here.
Hello, thank you.
All right, let's take me back, if you don't mind,
Yes,
to when you started seeing some issues with your daughter as far as her symptoms. What were those symptoms?
Yes, Paige. It started when she came to me in the middle of the night with a sore throat. And when she had a high fever, we took her to the doctor. They couldn't break that fever. And the symptoms included a swollen lymph node, red eyes, strawberry tongue, body rash all over. She also had peeling, severely peeling of the hands and the feet.
Wow.
And arthritis set in. Her joints were swollen in major areas, and it crippled her.
Wow.
Yes.
So obviously that's when you knew something really wrong was going
Yes,
on.
ma'am.
When you
Yes,
first
ma'am.
went in, did they treat it just like, you know, we parents, we have the kids coming in
Yes,
all the
ma'am.
time with symptoms
Yes.
of a sore throat.
Yes, yes.
And when did you first go in, is that how they attempted to treat it?
Yes, actually, when we first went in, it's always misdiagnosed because there's so many multiple diseases inside of this disease. So it was misdiagnosed as scarlet fever, rheumatoid arthritis, and so as it was constantly being misdiagnosed, she was constantly getting sick.
Right. And this disease, it's called Kawasaki disease?
Yes, ma'am. Kawasaki
I
disease.
have never heard of this. What is
Yes.
this disease? What happens to the body?
This disease, actually, it inflames the blood vessels throughout the body. Yes, it inflames the blood vessels throughout the body. It causes that major body rash. It just tears down the body. If it is not treated within 10 days of the onset, it could cause coronary aneurysms, definitely different type of heart complications.
That is
So, yes,
absolutely
ma'am.
terrifying. Now, you were, what, 3 years old when this happened?
ma'am.
Do you remember, Jocelyn, any of this at all?
Actually, the only thing that I remember is things like in glimpse, like on movies when you see little frames.
Right, like these little, like little pictures that pop up.
It's just where the main thing that I remember is that's where I got my first love of chocolate milk. I remember that more than anything, and just being surrounded by family all the time.
Wow, and so that's wonderful that you
Yeah.
were able to develop a love of chocolate milk. But I think
Yes,
that
yes,
hope,
yes.
even something like the little things,
Yeah.
that really helps kind of pave
Yes.
the way towards
Yes.
overcoming. But also what you were able to do is, with retrospect, you wrote a book.
Yes,
and the
ma'am.
name of
Yes,
the
ma'am.
book is Sculpture of a Miracle, God's Glory.
Yes.
Can you tell us about what went into creating this book, and how soon after she recovered were you able to put pen to paper?
What actually inspired me to write this book was just the fact of God. God showing up in the darkest hour. The glory of God was always with us. This book is a testament of the power of prayer. We prayed and we prayed and we prayed. And just having that in my mind, it was God inspired. God inspired us to write this book. When I prayed to God in the hospital, I said, God, if you please heal my child, I will share this story across the whole world. And that was my biggest story. That was my biggest inspiration. And I have been true to that word.
And he kept his promise, and you kept your promise.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, unfortunately for many families, illness can really break a family apart. There's so much
Yes.
stress
Yes.
that goes into it. But in your
Yes.
case, you guys bonded through this
Yes,
process. I mean, would you say that the illness, in many ways, Jocelyn, kind of kept the family even closer?
Yes, I would say. It's one thing to know that you're going through something. It's another thing to not be aware of it, but later on hear how much your family has prayed for you and fought for you when you couldn't fight for yourself.
Yes.
That's speechless of its own.
You know, sometimes when we have such devastating circumstances, and it's kind of like on your knees kinds of circumstances,
yes.
it does provide some perspective. And I'm curious about how it changed your perspective, not only on your daughter,
Yes.
but on family systems in general. What did you
Yes.
learn from this?
My whole experience was just growing me in faith. It was the power of prayer. It strengthened my prayer life. It allowed God to use me even more, because when God breaks you, he will build you. And that's exactly what he did in my life. He built me up to be a strong mother for not just to Jocelyn, to all my other children, to be an inspiration to other mothers, so they can see what I did, being persevere and endure. That was my biggest thing, and that was my biggest power to keep going. It was nothing but God.
Well, and speaking of persevering and achieving great things, you were an Oklahoma City Thunder dancer.
Yes.
You just recently retired, is
Yes,
my
ma'am.
understanding.
Yes,
So How did this illness help inform your next steps in life and also the achievements that you experienced?
Yes. First of all, OCD Crew was my favorite dance team ever. I love the team, always will. It helped me so much because it motivated me. A lot of times it's normal to get nervous to dance in front of thousands of people, especially during the playoffs and the finals. But when I think about where I could have been and where I am now, nothing was guaranteed. The uniform was never guaranteed. So instead of being nervous or scared, I chose to use that to glorify God and the talent that He gave me that was not promised.
That is such a good point. So it basically gave you the courage then
Yes, ma'am.
to kind of go out there and face, recognizing that nothing is promised, nothing is guaranteed. It's all a risk when it gets down to it. But with the help of your faith and that support, you can face those risks head on.
Yes, ma'am.
That is really exciting. So for families that are currently having to deal with somebody, a member of their family that is facing some really trying medical issues, what kind of advice would you give them when they're kind of in that dark tunnel that they don't see the light at the end?
Yes, ma'am. The advice that I would give would be that all things work according to God's will. And that if you are still here with breath in your lungs, that God is not done with you. So whatever you may be going through, it may not be what we ideally want it to be, but use every moment that you have to be the best version of yourself every day.
I love that. Thank you both for sharing your story. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.